passes.
Perfect. Okay, so these next two, these are an after the fact. We brought this to the April, I guess it would have been the last tree board meeting. We didn't have a quorum, but we did ask the chair if we could move forward with a construction project, just so we weren't held up by this. These are actually, the adjacent property owner to these trees is the city of Coos Bay. They are adjacent to the parking lot. We're asking for removal request for the trees along North 3rd Street. If it pleases the tree board to approve the request for the city to remove and replace 3 trees adjacent to the parking lot of 299 Commercial Avenue. On April 1st, the city of Coos Bay submitted an application to remove all 3 trees along the north between Central and Commercial. These trees are creating trip hazards and drainage issues due to the tree roots upheaving the sidewalks, panels, and root infiltration in the storm drain system. It's staff's recommendation to remove the oversized trees and replace with trees from the approved street tree list.
Okay, do we have a motion for that?
I move after the fact to approve the request from the city to remove and replace the 3 trees adjacent to the parking lot of 299 Commercial Avenue.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed, say no. Hearing none, the motion passes.
Yeah, and the next one here is it's the same thing. The North 3rd, it's the second. They're just 3 total trees, but we did them in 2 different requests at 2 different times. So the next one on the agenda is at a previous tree board meeting, the board requested a future agenda item to discuss engaging a landscape architect for the urban renewal districts of downtown and the Empire District. The action requested is provide direction to staff regarding engaging a landscape architect. The staff will present the board's recommendation to the city council for consideration. The tree board list for the downtown and Empire Urban Renewal District was approved by the board last year and adopted by council in July of 2024. At the March 26, 2025 tree board meeting, it was requested by a board member that a future agenda included considerations of engaging a landscape architect for urban renewal districts. At a minimum, the effort will involve evaluating the tree list and providing a recommendation. In addition, additional efforts are desired. The board should identify these efforts during this agenda item. If approved by the board, this recommendation will be presented to council for consideration. If approved by council, the funding for this effort can be funded by the Urban Renewal Agency Fund for downtown and Empire districts or directed by council.
Okay. I'd like to open this up for discussion. If anybody has anything to say about it, one way or the other.
I'll maybe open a discussion, at least from the standpoint of our organization. One of our main street responsibilities we call design, really public appearance, and quite honestly, this is an area that in fact, our entire effort is primarily orchestrated and run by volunteers. This is one area, quite honestly, where we have not gotten the engagement from, at least on a voluntary basis, to do this kind of work. And so from that perspective, I understand if you want to bring some expertise in, there's probably going to be some cost to it. And so in that sense, I'm at at least in favor of looking at pursuing something like this. I'm not sure, but in terms of the cost and how much we can allocate and what, you know, the budget implications are. But at least in terms of having that expertise, like I said, we've had a tough time getting that on a voluntary basis. And so if dollars are what's required to make something like that happen, I'm open to discussing it.
Terrific. Anybody else?
I'll jump in here. It sounds like dollars would be just allocated from the Urban Renewal Agency, which has its own decent-sized budget. So I don't think that the Downtown Association would need to chip in on that.
I'm sorry, can we adjust the audio? Is there somebody that can deal with that? Sorry, Carmen, you're echoing a ton.
Oh, really? Weird. Did it just start, or has it been that way the whole time?
It's kind of been like that with both you and Haley.
Here, let me try to
I think it's on our end.
switch. Is this any better?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I'll try it this way. I was just saying that in terms of funding, it sounds like the funding's coming from it's being recommended that it comes from the Urban Renewal Agency, which has its own budget. This is within
I'm sorry,
their purview, so.
Carmen, the echoing, it's kind of back.
Okay.
Let's just
All
see,
right.
let's see if staff
Let me-
can do something.
We're texting IT right now.
Okay. Carmen, if we just wait a few minutes, the tech is coming to hopefully correct it.
How about I just type it in the comments?
Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay. Then I'm just going to take the time to say a few things, and hopefully we'll get it back for you, Carmen, in just a few minutes. Yeah, I'm the one who asked for something like this. It seems, you know, the tree board is very concerned with, you know, certain types of trees that will do well, that will hopefully not destroy the sidewalks and the streets, and all of that is awesome. Just as a citizen, I noticed that our trees seem to be, particularly within the urban renewal district, sort of homogeneous. And I'm not a landscape architect, I'm not a design person, but I certainly know, I've been in lots of different towns and cities where it just seems as though they might have consulted a designer at some point to sort of liven up the treescape within the town. And that, to me, that's what this would be all about. Now, of course, we don't know what something like that's going to cost for a designer to come in and suggest. I would assume they would suggest off of an approved list, because it sounds like the list is fairly extensive. So that part, I would hope wouldn't interfere with what the tree board already does. But my only thought about this, instead of maybe it might be a better approach rather than just throw this at city council, that it might be that we ask for bids for something like this, and then give them the 3 bids and maybe a recommendation of who we might go with. That way, it at least cuts down some of the work for them, and they can tell right away whether it's something that would be feasible or not, rather than having to instigate that whole process by themselves. So that would be my one sort of amendment to what staff has presented to us. is there any comment regarding that? Probably Carmen. We don't have Carmen ready to go yet, do we?
Go ahead.
Okay, let's
Is it any
try.
better at the moment?
Yeah, give it a shot.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I would say try to speak softly because you tend to echo less, I think.
Okay. Well, it was brought up about cost. The cost was brought up. The Urban Renewal Agency has its own funding, so I wouldn't worry too much about that since there is a pot of money to pull from, and I believe that this would fit within the scope of work that the Urban Renewal Agency is focused on. So I don't believe any cost would be incurred by the Downtown Association. In addition, when we are going out to get a professional, I think that getting bids for the work is kind of a standard practice, so more than likely that would already happen. So I agree with the action of going and getting a few bids.
I didn't pick all that up. Did anybody feel they understood? Okay. Do you? It's what he's saying.
He was talking about funding from urban renewal. He thought that would not be an issue, from what I understood.
Okay. Do you concur with that, Carmen? Because you were echoing a little bit, and it was a little difficult to understand.
I concur.
Okay. Okay, I guess with, one more time, so it wouldn't be necessary for us to go out to bid and present it to them. It's something that they would do or may have already done.
I think you're going to need to put together a scope of what you're looking for to present that to council. You know, what your overall, I guess, idea is, so then so staff can present that to council.
I think the problem with putting together a scope is I don't think any of us are landscape designers.
No, but I think you know what you want, what you're looking for, right? I'm not asking you to say, hey, we're going to design this, this, and this. I mean, just a simple, we'd like to hire a landscape designer to help enhance the downtown, something along those lines. Is that right, Jennifer?
Well, that's essentially it. So I don't know what more needs to be said.
Okay, I'll jump in here. This is Jennifer Wersing. I'm the Public Works Director for the City of Coos Bay. I do like, Commissioner Daley, I do like your idea of getting quotes to take to council. I think that's very thoughtful. I think what Lance is trying to say is we are unclear on the total scope of work you want to do. Do you just want to come up with a list that replaces the list that this commission just adopted last year? Or do you want to come up with a whole landscape plan for the downtown area? So I think this commission either needs to form a committee or maybe even make it a future agenda item to really think about the full scope of work you want staff to go and get quotes for or bids for, because that is, I'm sitting here with Lance and I am unclear on exactly what you want, because again, just to go, you guys just adopted a list for a year and we really haven't worked that list very well. So I don't know what you think is working or not working with that recently adopted tree list for the downtown and Empire URAs.
Well, and as you speak, I would think would be a great idea, particularly in the downtown or in the urban renewal district. I think coordinating with the specific businesses those trees are going in front of would be a great idea, because businesses would have different considerations. You know, please don't put that in front of the main window that I display my items, you know, that kind of thing. But it might be different for another business. Might say, that gets so big, it clogs my gutters, and one big storm is going to end up flooding into my store because my drainage system can't handle all those gutters, all those leaves. So there probably are a lot of factors matters that might go into this. So maybe a committee might be a good idea to hash that sort of thing out. My initial idea, and perhaps it was naive, was just that my assumption is with a landscape designer might be, you know, you pick out the pretty ones that go where you think they should go, you know, or you know, or a combination that gives it gives a more beautiful appearance to the city. And so it's kind of simple where I'm starting from. I think you're right. There probably are more distinct things to consider, and perhaps we should form a committee first.
And not that I want to delay anything, but it's unfortunate that the chair's not here and Commissioner Miller, because they were the ones, well, Commissioner Childs, you as well, but they were the ones that were really involved in creating this list. So I think that coordination with the adjacent property owner can and should occur, but that's not what, we don't need a consultant for that coordination. I think that and please help me out here, Commissioner Childs, I think that the list actually did take into account trees falling, canopy, root structure. Please, you speak better to this than I do.
Well, it's not, my concept of introducing this to the council was, because I recognize a lot of work was done regarding different trees. It's a matter of, for beautification's sake, having somebody who has expertise in that within a city structure, a landscape designer, could tell us, this list it's not a list of 6 trees. There's a whole bunch of trees involved that they could, rather than just say, oh, we want this tree to go all the way down that street, which tends to be what I see. I haven't been on this tree board that long, but it tends to be what I see. I suspect a landscape designer will say, well, we can put, you know, a grouping here of this tree that's on your list and a grouping here of this tree and maybe one of this, that kind of thing, which is to me a much more artistic venture than it is of creating a list of good, you know, hardy trees that won't destroy the surrounding area. They're 2 different things. So I think we still need a person like that, but I also think that you bring up a good point in that there are probably other things that could be done sort of at the same time along with that. So that's. Does anybody have a problem with what I just said? Or?
I think the other issue really is when you take a look at the downtown, there's different partners involved. It's not just businesses, and I think that's where sometimes we fall into the thinking, yeah, well, downtown's all business. But, you know, I'm looking at the art museum, for example. You know, their perspective in terms of what fits in front of their building is probably going to be different than Jenny's shoe store, sure. For example. So I think the needs may differ, and so the whole concept is a landscape architect going to take a look at the whole area. I'm not sure that really is.
I think you need a landscape architect for developing new projects. As someone who is not entrenched in whatever, with the city or with the tree board or whatever, and you need to start off by, as you say, developing a scope as what they would be responsible for, how they would be responsible for, and the time and commitment involved. So they can figure out the time and commitment involved from what you're asking them to do. But you have to have something specific you're asking them to do to be able to hire them. Just like anybody else you would hire, you have to tell them what the job is before you can say, you know, tell me what it would cost. And our tree list is just a starting point. And we're not, I don't think the tree board is opposed to using specific trees in specific places, but these are the trees that they have looked at and determined that they would be acceptable for us weather-wise and wind-wise, all those things that go into figuring out what trees work for us compared to somebody else.
So if I'm hearing this board correctly, then I just think that either you form a committee or you make an agenda item to hammer out a scope of work. What do you think, Lance? Yeah. And then once you guys get that scope of work, we can go and do.
Basically, my thought is basically what you need is somebody that's on call that can provide input in planning process for a project, because you're not going to change the whole downtown. That's something that there's no funding for. You're going to change one piece at a time as you have projects in a certain area.
So you want just like a landscape architect of record, per se?
On call, kind of is.
Well, essentially,
So-
I think the development, this is good, but essentially still the landscape, I think the use of a landscape architect after the development of what their scope should be is basically to add the artistic eye that I would assume that that's what they normally get paid to do, and I don't know that any of us have that other than our own natural abilities, but
So then can I just
that could be a war.
Yeah. Can I just suggest then we just wait for that project to come, and then we'll go out and potentially get a landscape architect should council approve?
Well, I would also, I wouldn't expect to go down and go out and chop down a bunch of trees and put in a bunch of different ones the landscape architect said to, but trees, just like the ones we talked about, they for one reason or another need to be removed. Either they're diseased or they're destroying too much of the surrounding area, whatever the case may be. I think that's the time when that person has a little bit of input as to, what can develop there by replacement of that tree. So I think it is a long-term situation, but having that extra eye involved in it rather than just a specific project, I think that it needs to be dealt with holistically, which I realize might make it difficult for them, but that's why you keep paying them for that.
Sure. I think I'm starting to see what you want, and this is where I may rely on Councilor Matthews as the council representative. So I think we can take what you guys are telling us and take it to council and just say this is the concept, because there will be a cost, and Carmen, Councilor Matthews is absolutely right. We have funding agency. It's just, will the full council want to allocate those funds? And if they do, we can set a budget and we can move forward with that scope of work if that's something that this entire commission wants.
Well,
but Councilor Matthews may want to weigh in.
That's true, but in my opinion, I would want you to bring that to us so that we know that's what we want to present first, and then it can go to council.
Bring what, Commissioner Daley?
Well, you just got done saying that you thought as staff you could bring this concept to them. I would like, if you're going to bring a concept, then you bring it to us so that we could.
You are telling me the concept. You want a consultant that is already been hired to provide input on projects when they come.
Right.
So I can definitely present that to council.
Can you present it to us first?
Isn't that what we're doing right now? Sorry.
No, you're going to do a presentation to them unless you want to record those words and say that's what you're saying to council.
We can put it on the next agenda item in 3 months,
Thank you.
if you'd like.
Carmen, did you have anything, especially with
Do you have
regard
enough
to
direction?
your perspective from a counselor?
Let's try this again. Can you hear me okay? Or is it still echoey?
We're turning our mics.
Go ahead, Carmen.
How about this? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
We're going to try.
Okay.
Better.
All right. Well, I think having a landscape engineer kind of give us a general, holistic idea of what it maybe should look like totally makes sense. And I think the Urban Renewal Agency can pay for that, and that's not a cost that would be incurred by the Downtown Association. In terms of like that work being done, I think it's kind of disjointed in what we're asking for. We're asking for input from adjacent businesses or landowners, and we're asking to do it in phases as, you know, different things happen, and there's damage, we have to remove a tree. So at some point it just seems like we're dealing with it on a case-by-case basis, whereas, you know, a whole general plan, it might be already prescribed. So these two ideas seem kind of conflicting to me. So I guess it's clear as mud at the moment.
How about a committee to try to make the mud less muddy? And then we'll process, is that be? I guess what I'll do is, and we can decide if we not by making a motion that we want to form a committee in order to make this concept.
So I just wanted to step up and just kind of talk a little bit about the reason that the board created their tree list back in 2024. And the reason that the board created the tree list was to help, kind of standardize the trees that were being put in, to lessen the damage that these trees would create as they grow. B is to create a canopy that would not has as much impact on the buildings and on the roadway that the current trees that we have now. And then C is to also help promote development, is to kind of create this list that developers have a pre-described list of trees that can be used so that when we do meet quarterly, that the businesses or the new development that's being proposed has this pre-described list of trees that can be utilized, that they can move forward with their development, understanding that these are the list of trees that they can go ahead and choose from. So I just wanted to reiterate that. The trees, a lot of the trees that we planted, and we can all agree upon that they probably weren't the right trees for street trees when they were planted 50, 60 years ago. Board member Childs talked about the trees up on Market, probably not the right trees to plant in that area. We have a lot of trees that were planted in the downtown area that were not the right trees to be planted. But this list that was developed by the tree board are more appropriate for downtown. Grow up, grow fast, very narrow canopies, root systems go down, so less impact on sidewalks. And again, this list was created so that developers can go ahead and select these trees. And I think that this gives their landscape architects, as they're developing these properties, to say in the downtown urban renewal areas, these are the trees that we can select from. And then obviously, if they do want to deviate from that, they can bring it before the tree board to present those ideas in those situations if they do arise. And so I just wanted to kind of bring that up as well. And so promote development, trees that are appropriate for sidewalks in urban areas, trees that will strive in the environment in which they're in and have good system for growing down, not out, not causing sidewalk damage if they're planted properly. So I just wanted to kind of just share with the reason that we have the list that we have is for those reasons.
I mean, to a certain extent, that's his argument. However, I don't think it.
A reminder to use your microphone.
Yeah, I don't think every project is going to have its own landscape architect. I think unless it's a significant project, it probably won't. When a tree goes bad in front of a store, there's a good chance it's a single property owner who may say, well, you know, this is the tree I'd like to have there based on certain criteria that may or may not be considered. With what seems to happen in a lot of cases is the city plants trees. Now maybe there's a rule that that's not the case anymore, but I'm not aware of it. Example being the 4th Street project. It seems to me all the trees that were cut down were replaced by trees that look just like it. And it's up and down the entire street, and it seems to be that somebody is more interested in an urban forest when you look at that street rather than beautifying an urban situation. It doesn't seem natural that, you know, all those trees. It seems like a planted orchard ready to pick fruit from. So I'm looking for someone with an artistic eye in this process. Now, you've pointed out some very difficult, or not difficult, but the fact that there needs to be a multitude of considerations with regard to bringing a person like that on. And so, as Carmen stated, it seems like we have juxtaposed positions, and maybe a group within the tree board getting together and kind of going over all those possible things. Maybe we can come more to a point where it's not just a matter of picking from a list, but it's with the help of an artistic eye. Because, I mean, quite frankly, as just an individual, I don't think the trees downtown enhance or make the downtown more inviting at all. And I'd like to change that. I'm not an expert, so maybe a group of us non-experts can get together, make some kind of plan to help provide that to the city.
So what you're suggesting is perhaps maybe a fact-finding committee, something that this body could maybe develop a small group and then present those facts
Back to the tree board.
back to the tree board.
Ask whoever might be appropriate. Certainly it sounds like Carmen thinks the Downtown Association would be the entity to go ask for the funding. I'm sure we would still need the approval of the city council as well.
Sorry, that's not what I said. I said the Downtown Association would not be required for funding.
Oh,
the Urban Renewal Agency is the place where the money happens to be, and I think that's within the focus of the Urban Renewal Agency.
Okay.
That being said, I'm hearing that you would like a little bit more diversity within the tree selection, and since we have a list of approved possibilities, and most of the time when a tree is getting removed, it's at the request of an adjacent property owner. At that time, I feel like maybe we have that adjacent property owner look and see if there's a possibility of a specific tree that they want, either off the list, or they can apply for something that they might want that, with approval of the tree board, would fit within the planting
I think there's a use for landscape architecture in specific projects, because placement and tree choice, it could be a good thing to have somebody looking at it from a different point of view. But in general, when we're doing, single tree replacement, probably not.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly, to me, it's certainly a better alternative, to give the property owner or business owner some say in it. That's a better process than what seems to be the current process. When you were talking, it sounded like.
Mark,
I'm not able to hear either.
Sorry, I keep forgetting we turn this on and off so we can hear you guys. I think it's a good idea to give the property owner some say, because I mean, just sort of as a whole, most of the money for these trees is coming via the property owner taxation and for the purpose of improving the urban renewal district. So it's sort of, that's the contributing base. And I would think a big portion of the goal there is to make downtown more friendly for business, which also means more friendly for tourists, which also means more friendly for customers. So it's a whole process, and I think to include the property owners and considerations that they may have. I just keep coming up with the idea of sticking a tree in front of your main display window, but there's lots of things that businesses might consider. They should have input with that regard. I think at this stage of the game, we've been getting a lot to think about here today, and I'm inclined to form a committee to try to give some clarity to what we've talked about, certainly to what Carmen has said with regard to his input, and see if there's a way. I guess ultimately it's a way to add a little more beauty to what we're doing with regard to our trees downtown. I don't specifically have an answer. I have some things that I think might help, and some things that we're doing that might be taken away. But I'm sure that the rest of the tree board has input. We could, I also like the suggestion, maybe we can invite some just citizens or members of the Downtown Association to partake in that, so that it's not just our influence. Maybe we could get a few artists involved in the discussion with us. That would be kind of awesome, because to date it doesn't really seem like we have that as an overriding concern, and I kind of think it should be. I've been to plenty of cities that, quite frankly, look awesome, and I can't believe that they didn't have an artistic eye regularly involved in the decision making. So
I might toss in, just from the standpoint of the Downtown Association. I mean, we could conceivably use our design committee as perhaps the vehicle you're looking for in terms of a subcommittee of this group. I mean, we could essentially have our design committee take that on. So, open certainly to that possibility and making that happen. My concern remains, though, in terms, again, of that committee, it is difficult to get the public involved. It's kind of like, I hear what you're saying. On the other hand, I don't hear an overwhelming public cry to say, geez, we need to form this body. Yes, we need this overall. plan, if you will. And I guess maybe that's my perspective, that yes, CBA, DEA could take on the responsibility of having a committee help generate this. I'm just concerned who's going to be on that committee and who's going to step forward to help. And I'm not sure that that help is out there. We would solicit it. It'd be interesting to see how many folks step forward to do it. But we could conceivably play that role instead of a subcommittee here. That subcommittee could be part and parcel of what CBDA could be then recommending to this committee. So I'm open to that as a possibility.
Well, let me ask this, because I think we've beat this horse a bit. Does anybody have a motion as to what direction we should take? Anybody? It can be simple, it can be complicated, something for us to...
I would
Go
like,
ahead.
sorry. I would like to suggest that we table this and include it in our next agenda. I believe that would give all of us here a little more time to clarify our own thoughts on what we think is needed, whether we'd like to move forward with the committee, or I think currently today my thought is that I would like to allow perhaps some more time for our adopted list to be in effect so that we could determine whether that is sufficient or not. I'm not sure that we have had that in place for long enough to really assess what additional guidance we might need to give to the city staff or to property owners. So my suggestion is, since we don't have a particularly clear action item at this moment, that we table this for our next meeting.
I second that.
Is there, I'm sorry, was that a form of a motion? Or
Yes.
Microphones, please.
Okay. That was in the form of a motion?
Yes, and seconded.
Okay, I have to say I did not clearly get that. We wouldn't seem to be understanding what they're saying. We have just sound coming from over here. And then when we have it appears to be on two systems, we have a sort of echo going on. And, I may not have the greatest hearing, but I think there's something wrong, and we get it right sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Haley made a motion to table the conversation, and Carmen seconded it, and that's where we are.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, I guess my thought before we vote is, I'm not clear as to why we table it and don't set out a direction at this point. Haley, if you gave us a reason for that, would you reiterate it? Because I really did not catch or understand much of what you said. We think the speaker system is okay at the moment, so if you could reiterate your motion, that would be great. Thank you. I'm such an idiot. I guess my question to that is, what are we doing now if a tree goes bad, gets cut down in front of somebody's property, and who does it just have to be replaced with the same tree? Who picks that tree? And does that property owner have a say in at least a vote in what happens? Can staff, can you answer that? Who determines the tree that goes back in there? And particularly if it's not a project where an already architect with hopefully they have a landscape designer, if it's not one of those projects, if it was in front of, any store. It was in front of the Egyptian, although I don't think that actually has a tree.
So to answer your question, if a tree was to be removed at this time, then the tree would be replaced with one of the trees that is on the approved tree list in the downtown urban renewal areas. I don't know if we would engage the property owner. We may. It depends on where it's at. But staff would probably, if staff took it out, then we would pick one of the trees because it's approved. So we would maybe just select one of the trees that are on there. If it was the adjacent property owner that removed the tree, then they would be able to select from one of the trees that are on that list.
Yeah, unless, and am I right or wrong, does staff have somebody that has some training in the aesthetic nature of trees for downtown, or do they just simply go to, let's just put that same tree back?
We would select from one of the list of the trees that are on that approved tree
Right, but
list.
it's staff doing it, so there's really no particular expertise.
We would rely on the expertise of the tree board that had pre-selected those trees as appropriate for the urban renewal area.
Well, right, but you're not guided as to which one of those trees you pick. And I think, from what I've heard, with sort of the exception of Haley and Carmen, seem to be somewhat hesitant, but I think the other members of the tree board that are here, and also when this subject has come up in the past, to my recollection, everybody thought that there was room to improve the beautification of the tree planting process, or the outcome, I guess you would say.
Mr. Chair, I think we have a motion before us.
Right.
That's been made and seconded. I suggest we move on to a vote on that unless...
Okay. This was just part of discussion.
I understand.
Which is part of
I
it.
understand.
Okay. Okay. We'll call for the vote. All those in favor of tabling this till the next meeting, say yes.
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 Aye.
All those opposed, hearing none, the motion passes.
Okay, well, that concludes our tree board meeting for September. I'd like to thank you all for joining.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Off the record, there are a lot of trees. If you look at the inventory, there are a lot of trees that are not standard trees, not the maples. The columnar maples on the streets. There's a lot of different trees that are scattered throughout the city.
Oh, there are.
And